Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Way, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 271 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices, and I really do appreciate you making my podcast one of your choices, right? And if you're a first-time listener, though, super welcome to you. I'm so pleased to have you here. I am the host, Jen Donovan, and as you'll learn along the way, I pretty much live, breathe, dream marketing and social media, and I'm ecstatic to have you here with me today. I've got a super episode. In fact, I have to say that I look forward to doing this episode every time I have to do it. So I do this once a year. I'm very excited that now has come the time to do it with you. But before we get into that, don't forget you can find the show notes for this podcast at allthewsocialmedia.marketing.com.au/271. And you're going to want that this time because there is a worksheet that goes with this episode. But before we get into this episode, last week, did you get a chance to listen to my amazing interview with Matt Red? We talked about really, I guess, realizing the unrealized assets in your business. It was a great conversation. I've had some really good feedback on this one. Just made people think a little bit side out. A little bit side out, a little bit outside the square, which I think is really awesome, given we are at the time of the year that we are. Of course, you can listen to that episode at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/270, or when you finish listening to this one, head back there. As I said before, I'm pretty excited to be bringing this episode right now because it's Word of the Year time. Yeah, I'm no good at singing. Sorry, that was my really lame attempt at trying to introduce something that I find really exciting. We're going to choose what your Word of the Year is. Now, I hope this excites you just as much as it excites me. This is the word that you will use to help make decisions, to help create your business that you want next year, and the word you will measure things against as the year rolls on. Now, don't switch off just yet because you're thinking, Jen, I don't have a word of the year. Jen, I don't do this stupid word of the year stuff. Trust me, this can be something that will have a huge impact on your business. I am very goal orientated, but I find this particular exercise something that really keeps me on track the whole year if I choose the word that's right for me. And just in case you're wondering, I'm not going to go all wishy washy about talking one word to describe your coming year, but I do want to tell you a bit of a story. And if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, yeah, it's the same story as last year, but it's got a bit of a twist at the end. Trust me. It all began about 3 years ago when I was listening to a podcast. Actually, that's probably a lie. It all began about 5 years ago when I was listening to a podcast. And I can't really remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was probably Amy Porterfield's podcast. And she was talking about choosing a word of the year, writing down all your goals, your hopes, your dreams, your BHAG, so your big, hairy, audacious goals, and then choosing one word that would describe all those goals, all those hopes, all those dreams, and a word that would keep you on track every day in your business. And I kind of thought at the time, one word? Seriously? How can I think of one word to describe all those things? But, I'm nothing if not a trier. So I did it. I sort of sat with it for a while and I let it percolate in my head. What could this one word be? So I chose the word all the way back then of impact. And it had a massive impact on my business. And so I've chosen a word every year since. Now, you may or may not know, my word of the year this year in 2023 was challenge. And what a challenge it has actually been. Back in mid year on episode 253, I talked about how much my word of the year was influencing me, how much the word challenge was really making me rethink everything. I've basically challenged everything in my life and my business. Lucky my husband and children, I love them so much that I haven't challenged them, but I've challenged everything else. I've challenged my offerings. I've challenged where I spend my time. I've challenged my business models, who I want to work with, what I'm capable of. Everything has been a challenge this year. And I could probably say, hand on heart, without the word challenge as my word of the year, I'm not really quite sure that I would have wrote a book. I'm not really quite sure that I would have had the guts, gumption, whatever, to go, yeah, I'll write a book this year. Writing a book has been something that has been on a really distant, faded type of to-do list at some stage. I think everyone has got a book inside them, whether it be fiction or non-fiction, but I think everybody has a book inside them. And so for some reason, this year was the year. Besides my amazing friend Tracy Sheehan, the digital guide, shout out to Trace if you're listening to this. Besides her being a pushy mushy and pushing me to go down to Hobart to do the program, which I'm going to talk to you all about on a later episode. Um, I think it was the word challenge that pushed me. It's kind of like, yeah, Jen, that's a challenge. Let's do it. So I don't think I would have made the decisions that made the changes that I've made if that wasn't my word of the year. And I truly believe that. And the thing that is for me a little bit bizarre is I don't feel like I chose that word. Like, when I've chosen impact and I've chosen, all sorts of other words over the years, I feel like I've chose them where I really felt challenge chose me. So, did you have a word of the year this year? And did it work for you? I'd love to hear your stories about that. If you've got a really great experience about your word of the year, hit me up. Maybe we could do a Facebook Live together or we could just have a bit of a chat. I would love to know if these things are impacting you. Like, I really feel that they impact me. Of course, you can't just choose a word and then think it's going to have an impact on you. You actually have to use it time and time again, print it out, have it in front of you, normalize its everyday activity with you to make it work. It's like having a goal and then not working towards that goal. Like it just doesn't, it's not magic, but choose the right word can change the way your life looks within 12 months because it certainly has with me. So why choose the word of the year? I'm going to do a little bit of what is it? Pull marketing right now, trying to convincing marketing maybe, that you should choose and that you should do this concept with me. If you're new to the concept, here's a few reasons that I think would be useful for you to know why you should choose a word of the year. It helps to give you focus. It allows for flexibility. If you ever feel like your goals change a lot over time or that you fail to meet a goal and then, it feels like everything just goes out the window, which is totally what happens to most of us, but having a single word that you can adjust your goals over time so that they are in line with your focus word or your word of the year that you've chose, but maybe the goal isn't the same, but it is still aligned with your word of the year. So it just gives you a better feeling of accomplishment and that you're not perhaps spiraling or you're not achieving your goals. It's easy to remember. If you're thinking about decisions, if you're thinking about business models, if you're thinking, should I do A or B, one word is really easy to remember, especially if you type it up and print it out and put it in front of you. So you look at it or it looks at you every single day. And it can also unify your goals. Generally, our goals are pretty broad and cover all different elements of our life. And that kind of makes it hard to use them as a criteria for making decisions. But by analyzing your goals and then choosing one word that resonates across them all, you might find it easier to define what your approach will be for the year or help guide you to make any decisions that you need to make. That's what it does for me. It challenges me even when the word's not challenge, but it helps me align where I'm heading for the whole 12 months. And it's easy to review your achievements. Ask yourself a question like, did this, whatever the activity is, reflect whatever the word is? You know, did for me, did 2023 reflect the word challenge? It's like, hell yes, for me, it did indeed. So now it's time. Are you ready? It's time to choose your word of the year. You might know it straight away. You might already know what your word might um, you might already know what your word is or what you want it to be. Maybe it's on the tip of your tongue, or maybe you need to sit with it, let it percolate, develop some ideas. Let it come to you. Maybe your word of the year, like mine, challenge just appears to you and just all of a sudden makes sense to you. And the beauty of the exercise we're going to do in a minute is there's no pressure to know right away. In fact, I give you so much permission to take your time with this. So, like I said, we're going to do a little exercise and it's in the show notes at socialmediamarketing.com.au/271. And it's a worksheet. So it has a couple of steps. So step one is do a little brainstorm of the words that come to your brain about the year that's coming, about 2024. What are the words that come when you think of 2024? And you can do this for yourself personally or for your business, or you can do it for both. And then, if you want to, list some thoughts under the different areas in the sheet. What are your personal goals? What are your fears? What can't you wait for in 2024? How are you going to give back to your clients, to your customers, community, yourself, your family, your friends, whoever? And what's your biggest project going to be for 2024? What are the goals for your business, for your career? And is there something new you might like to learn? Is there something new you should learn? Because that will help 2024 be an amazing year. So step 3 after doing this, and again, there's a worksheet in the show notes. So go and have a look at it. But finally, one word that you think unifies all your thoughts across all your goals and write it at the bottom of the sheet. You might find that your chosen word relates to your strongest goal or not to all of them, but that's okay. The broader it is, the more useful it will be. So, what's my word of the year for 2024? I hear you asking. And if you're not going to ask, then I'm going to tell you anyway. And you know what? My word of the year won't surprise you at all. In fact, if you follow my method for all the decisions based around one word, and that all decisions are measured against this one word, then it won't surprise you to know that my word for 2024 is book. You're not surprised, are you? I just invested a shitload of money in a book. So I need to make book my word of the year. All I do next year will be based around the book. Why? Because the whole reason for writing the book was to have impact on small businesses, take away the marketing overwhelm to show them what good marketing looks like via the book, and change the world through marketing one small business owner at a time. So I could have chose impact as my word of the year, but it's not. My word of the year is book. I will measure everything I do against the book and not the sales of the book, the impact of the book. It's no coincidence that the name of the book is Small Town, Big Impact. Its purpose is to have impact. My purpose is to make sure that happens via the book, that the course created that has been created out of the book, which is my 9-week marketing transformation program, which, by the way, is open. And if you want to take a closer look, you can go into the show notes and click on that and have a bit of a closer look as to what that program is. But, you know, that's to have impact. The PR, the free marketing, the podcast, the blogs, the talks, the workshops, the keynotes, and all the other goodies I have planned for 2024 are all going to be around the book. But not the sales of the book again. I don't want you to think this is about selling the book. This is about the book having impact, because that is why it was written. And this podcast is also up for a bit of a change. You know, in 4 weeks' time, it will be 5 years since I started my podcast. So I think it's time to do something a little bit different. And I will talk about that in future episodes as the year rolls out. But it's a hell of a year coming up. And I really hope that you are thinking that too. 2024, hell of a year. Can't wait. Let's bring it on. That's the way I feel. That's the way I want you to feel as well. So it's your turn now. I would love you to hop into the Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. If you're not already a member, go and join and let me know, what's your word of the year going to be? Or do we need to do we need to brainstorm this together inside that group? Imagine if you put up your word of the year and that inspired somebody else to think about their word of the year. I think that is what can come also from going into Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group and putting in your word of the year. I will see you over there, and I will make sure that, I talk about my word of the year, which hopefully will encourage you to think about and create your word of the year as well. I cannot wait to hear what your word of the year is going to be. Use the worksheet in the show notes here at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/271 if you are at all concerned that you can't choose a word of the year. But that's it, episode 271. If you're enjoying this podcast and you've listened to here so far, so hopefully you are, please don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with another superstar business owner who is doing that daily grind and would appreciate someone making their business life simpler. And maybe they too need to choose a word of the year. If you have a chance to leave a rating and a review where you're listening to this, I would be extremely grateful for that as well. Massive love coming your way if you take some time to leave that rating and a review. Of course, I will see you back here next week for episode 272. We have 4 weeks of the podcast left for the year. And in the meantime, if we're not hanging out on social, let's get social on social. You will find me on just about all the platforms. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.